This is a place.
This is the place?
This is a place. We want to talk about. This is a place. Welcome to this week's episode of This is a Place podcast. My name is Nate.
And I'm Brandon.
And happy Purple Heart Day. Felt like that's a good one because I feel like anytime you can honor our military, you need to do it because that means if they're doing it, I don't have to do it.
Good point.
Even though I've gotten probably to the age where they don't want me anymore, even though they probably always take you. But as far as the draft goes, I think I'm in the clear.
I don't know if I'm in the clear yet. I still might be in that window where things went south. Wouldn't be good for me.
Yeah. Do you have anybody in your family that's a Purple Heart? Or anybody that you know of?
I don't even know if I have any military family in my family.
Really?
Yeah, we're not very patriotic, I guess. Like I think back, I don't know of anyone in my line that has served in the military, which is
Man,
crazy
I
to
feel
say, especially
it
given the
is.
draft.
Well, I feel like if your grandparents and your parents were the age of World War II and Vietnam, like the odds of you having somebody who served military are pretty high,
Right.
right? When you're talking about the draft with Vietnam and stuff like that. But my grandpa, my dad's dad, served in World War II and has a Purple Heart. He was walking. My story's correct. He was walking alongside a tank, and the tank ran over a mine and ended up throwing him like over a small hill into a little ditch. And then he had permanent like hearing damage and stuff like that. But I mean, he was fine other than that.
So a Purple Heart, is it just you got injured in combat? Is that how it works?
Yeah, I think so. I believe so.
Okay.
I did have a coworker for a minute who was a Purple Heart. Can't remember, it was Afghanistan or something like that. But same thing. I think he was in a tank. Like he was part of a tank, and they got ambushed, and a piece of metal went through his arm or something like that. But
That's crazy.
he was proud of it. So yeah, like I said,
Good thing to
anybody
celebrate.
who's willing to serve in the military, you get all my respect. And I'll even throw in police officers to that too. Like if you want to be a police officer
A
and
fireman.
firemen and stuff like that, then more so I think police officer because they get a bad rap and they have to deal with, even though firemen have to go to every 911 call that doesn't involve a gun, they show up, but the police officers get a lot of crap and
They get
deal
a
with
bad
a lot
rap
of
these days.
poo-poo heads. But so yeah, so thanks guys for your service. If you were wounded, then even more thanks. And it's also my older brother's birthday. So there's that. He's not a Purple Heart. Did not serve in the military, but
But we
I
should
guess happy
still
birthday.
give him
Happy
happy
birthday,
birthday.
Matt. And we're not talking about our Matt. We're talking about my Matt.
Yes, one of the many Matts in our lives.
All Matts are silly.
All Matts. Yeah, yeah, fair. It's fair.
Yeah. Do you know Matt that's not silly? I don't.
No, every Matt I know is very, very silly.
A few weeks ago, the tangent. Can I tangent this? A few weeks ago, we went to one of our episodes. We did Salsaleos, right? And they sent out a deal saying that if you come in today, you get 40% off your total order, right? So I'm
Okay,
not going to pass up that opportunity because the place is good.
sure.
But they have a patio dining now and waiting area, I guess you could
Okay,
say.
okay.
There was a fella there, and he was sitting looking down at his phone, and I for sure thought it was my dad. My dad lives in St. George, so I'm like, what the heck is my dad doing here? And I had to like sit there and stare at it. And then he's with people I don't know. So I'm like, what is he doing? But I wasn't 100% sure it was my dad. So I had to sit there and like stare at this guy until he looked up. And then I noticed it wasn't my dad. But then he looked back down on his phone. I like discreetly took a picture of him and sent it to my siblings. And even my siblings, like my older sister, Sarah, who we've had on this podcast as well, she had to zoom in to double check, make sure it wasn't my dad. So you got to be, yeah,
I was really
like I said,
hoping
recognize.
you were gonna say you were looking at the fella, and he was looking at his phone, looking at our episode about Sausalitos. That's
Dude,
what I.
how cool would that be?
That would have been cool.
That's what we should do. We should go to like all the locations we've covered and put like one of those codes on there to say listen about our podcast on.
QR code,
We would get like at least 3 more downloads a week,
if not a million.
if not anywhere from 3 to 1 million. But as our listeners, those who listen to more than one episode and follow us, the 5 of you that still follow us, you know that I've been asking for a referral for somebody who can cut my hair to cut off these love locks, cut off the moneymaker.
Mm.
Tell Fat Jesus it's time to go home. So we actually had somebody reach out to us and said, "Hey, I got somebody for you." So I reached out to this individual and said, "Hey, would you be willing to help me donate my hair and then come on and talk about your little gig?" So that's what we got for you today.
Today we're joined by London Thompson of Styled by London. Thanks for coming on to chat with us today.
Yeah, of course.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and how we got to this point.
So I have been doing hair for 6 years, and I went to hair at Paul Mitchell Provo, and I just recently opened my own studio called Innovative Studio right in Riverton, and I wouldn't imagine doing anything else than hair. And you guys reached out to me for donating hair to a charity.
Nate, to
And
be
that's what we
exact.
did.
Nate's
Yeah,
the one
the
with the
time
hair.
it was time to chop off the locks.
How are
And
you like hair?
it's been good. It's been different. I still forget that I cut my hair. Like for example, when I put a hat on, I put my hands by my ears to pull my hair back. I do that a lot. Or if I'm gonna go itch the back of my neck, I always look for the hair to pull back to scratch, but it's not there anymore. It always takes 1 or 2 times in the shower to forget that you don't need that much shampoo. Yeah, before I needed like 3 or 4 pumps of the shampoo, and now I could probably get away with a half a pump to get my
Easy.
hair lathered up. But it's been good. I mean, it's good timing too because it's been super hot the last few weeks. So it's been nice, but looks like you're still dealing with that pain of the long hair. So there's
I
no relief for you.
I do shave the whole back half of my head though.
Oh,
Yeah,
I've
from
done that before where I've drawn the hair out and then you kind of pull it up and shave underneath, and then it looks like you have long hair, but you don't
yep.
have all long hair. So that's nice. Yeah. Smart. So the place you work at, or your studio is that called Innovated?
No, so my LLC is Innovative Studio.
Okay.
And I rent my space. I lease it out from Live Studios.
Live Studios. Yes, that's what it was. Tell us a little bit about Live because it's really kind of a cool concept that I've never really seen or heard of before.
It's freaking awesome. So Live Studios, the one that I am at, is owned by this gentleman named Shane. And Shane's been doing this for, I believe he told me, over 30 years. And so the whole idea, the way I like to explain it is it's kind of like a hotel. You walk in and every room is the same, if not similar. They all have a sink or all certain square footage. And multiple people can come in and rent out a room for whatever business they have, usually provided in like a service industry type business. Live, the one I work at, we currently have like a tattoo artists, we have teeth whitening people. There is a woman, she's a nurse practitioner, and she just started doing the injections like Botox and stuff. And then we also have people that specialize in body waxing. And then Move is like a health and wellness clinic there. Like there's variety. It's incredible the community that they've grown.
It can almost become a one-stop shop for health and beauty stuff, right?
Yeah, and it's really cool because we're all our own individual LLCs. You really get a personalized service no matter what business you go to, whether it's a tattoo or teeth whitening or barbering myself.
Yeah, it's a really cool. Is there other places that do something similar, or is this a newer concept, or I just didn't know about it?
It's definitely been a newer concept that has been growing over the last 5 years specifically. I think COVID had a huge shift in that because people had to stop going to places like sports clips. And so there's multiple different companies that do rent out or lease out these studios. So Live Studios is the company I'm with. I know there is My Salon Suites and like Indie Studios. There's a couple of them throughout Utah.
Yeah, it's a really cool concept. The only thing I think that I could compare it to is you see these places that have executive offices for businesses where you might have like a real estate, mortgage, and insurance guy, and then they all just have a room inside this office building so they can have cheaper rent and have a place to go work out of. So it's kind of that concept, but with everything that you just mentioned. So I thought it was really cool. So you can chop off your hair and go down the hall and get a tattoo if you
It,
wanted to.
I even had my hair cut done by one of the other stylists there that specializes in women's hair.
Very cool.
One thing I think was cool that kind of came out of our discussions was, the haircut industry is kind of going to, I don't know if you'd say a different direction, but there's things that have been changing and kind of coming up with memberships and things like that, which is something that you do a lot with your studio. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that
Yeah.
concept works?
So from what I am aware, there's not very many places that do offer memberships, but specifically towards the barbering industry, where you have a lot of male clientele that come in more than once a month, these memberships really do make sense for them. Kind of like a gym membership. You can come in as many times as you want to get your haircut touched up, fixed, cleaned up for a business meeting throughout the entire month, and your haircut's covered. So anytime you come in, you're just worried about like a $2, $3 tip or however much you choose to do so. So for example, I have 6 different membership options that include ones from just haircuts to haircut, shaves, and waxing, and also a family membership. And people really love it. It's what keeps my clients coming in, and it's definitely what keeps the money bargaining at a pretty agreeable rate.
What does a membership cost compared to like a haircut, or what kind of savings? I'm a big deal hunter, so why would I benefit from a membership versus just coming in and getting my hair cut from you?
So my basic haircut price is $38, and the haircut includes the haircut, straight razor, the back of the neck, and the hair wash and style. That's all included in the $38 hair. Yeah, so the membership for just a haircut is $43 a month.
And what does that get you?
Unlimited haircuts.
Do you have anybody that comes in like every other day?
I come in up to twice a week or even 3 times a week before. Those ones are generally like my businessmen that are going out of town and doing presentations, and or people getting ready for their wedding. So they come in for the reception haircut, and they come in for like the, what do you call it, the mock dinner for weddings,
Like a
and
rehearsal
then
dinner.
the rehearsal dinner, that's the word. And then they will get their haircut done for their wedding the night before or morning of.
Pretty cool. Yeah, part of the reason I like two types of haircuts. I like a shaved head or the long hair. And the reason why is the shaved head, it's really easy at home just to grab razor or whatever and shave your head. Or the long hair, you can just keep growing it out. Nobody says you need, well, everyone says you need a haircut when your hair is long, but it doesn't look like you need a haircut versus when you have shorter hair. After a couple weeks, you're like, it's not fresh anymore. So that's really cool that you have like a membership that you can go you almost don't really go get haircuts anymore. You just go in every couple weeks and tighten things up, right? So you don't have to go through the whole process of a haircut. once a month or whatever it is. That's really a cool concept that they started doing. I know, like you do it. I think was Goat the first place that started doing that, or
That I am aware of, Goat is the place. And I actually did work for Goat. I started working at Goat when they only had 3 locations. And then I left when they were at 25 or 27 locations. They just opened up 2 locations in Arizona by the time I was moving on.
wow,
And actually helped Goat create most of their training curriculum that they use for all of their new stylists to this day.
cool. Yeah, I think that was the first time I saw like a membership thing. I'm like, how does that work? And then like how much am I supposed to tip them each time I go in? So am I still paying more? Is it actually a, a savings at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think it would vary. So I do have clients come a week, and those clients tend to tip me anywhere from like $4 to $7 per haircut. So not so much more. But then the clients that do come in every 6 to 8 weeks, they will generally tip anywhere from like $10 to $20.
And then how did you going back a little bit, how did you decide, hey, being a barber or cutting hair is what I want to do with my life?
I pulled it out of my ass to graduate early. I was attending Springville High School, and my school counselor, he was incredible, pulled me to the side and told me that because I had transferred high schools in the middle of my junior year, I actually had about a new high school needed to graduate. And he told me if I took one online class, I could graduate within the end of the semester. And so I agreed, and he told me, well, we know you are a delinquent. I was drinking and smoking and involved in not greater things. So he asked me if I had a plan after high school. And I said, yeah, sure. And he goes, cool, let's have you apply for scholarships. What scholarships? And I said, hair school, out of my ass. And I applied for a couple scholarships and ended up getting some. And that's how it started. And I fell in love, and barbering's where I ended up.
Do you specialize in um, anything specific? Like, I know sometimes there's, someone will do just mostly men's hair or just women's hair. What's your specialty?
I do mostly haircuts and perms. That's the majority of what I do. I do long haircuts, women's cuts. However, you want your haircut, I'm going to cut it. I have 2 different price points for a haircut: above the shoulders and past the shoulders. So that way it just is gender neutral and covers everything that way. I do mostly perms on the ages between 13 to 25. And they come in almost every 3 months for a perm.
Perms are, yeah, they're kind of making a comeback, right? I mean, they were really popular back in my youth, back in the 80s, but I feel like they're making a comeback.
Yeah, I have done more perms outside of hair school than I ever did in hair school. And we were required to roll 200 perms in hair school.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Um,
and sorry, just a tangent. To be a realtor, you have to go to 90 hours of school. To be a beautician or a barber school, how many hours is it?
the cosmetology license is 1,600 hours in Utah.
That's so
Wow.
crazy. So somebody who's going to affect your financial life, 90 hours, and then somebody who's going to affect your hair for the next 3 weeks, 1,600 hours. Tell me how that makes sense. But anyways, sorry, random thought.
No, I completely agree. I actually did get my instructor's license, took the instructor's test here in Utah, and I did teach at a hair school for a short 6 months. And I love that education. And majority of the reason why us as hair industry workers need to go to so much schooling is for the theory that we need to learn disease background. We need to be able to identify if we can or cannot cut your hair based on the abrasions on your scalp. We need to be able to know if we need to recommend you to a dermatologist or a different type of doctor for something. And then the chemicals we use in color and perms is literally The chemicals can literally fry your skin.
Yeah. My neighbor, her and her daughter put some chemical in their hair a couple months ago and it fried their hair. I don't know what it was. She was just complaining about it. Her daughter was. So got to be careful, I guess.
40% of your theory test is on the pH scale.
It's kind of interesting to see where, I guess you could just say, barbering, hair salons in general have gone. I mean, I think women have always used hair salons as kind of a, they're there to get their hair done, but they're also there to chat, gossip, that kind of thing. There's kind of that perception, right? I was in New Orleans last year and I did a tour, and um they talked a lot about Maria Laveau, who's the voodoo queen of New Orleans. And they're like, yeah, she knew everything about the city because she was a psychic. No, because she was worked in a hair salon. So she was getting all the gossip here and everything. And I feel like it's kind of not shifting, but it seems like the men are kind of falling more into like, hey, this is a good place to go to hang
The
out, a good kind of getaway, right? When back maybe, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago, it's just like, okay, I'll just go get my hair cut and that's it. Just keep my hair kept up. But it's more than that now. Would you agree with that?
I completely agree. One of the biggest ways that I men in my chair is to tell them that it's a luxury experience for them. And that's another reason why I have men come in once a week, because it's their 45-minute time away from their wife and kids that they can turn off their phone and fall asleep in my chair. Like, it's become this huge getaway. And actually, the history of barbering is really unique. The classic barber pole, the red, white, and blue barber pole.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That is a pole that has been in history since the early 1800s. Back in the early 1800s, your barber used to be your doctor, dentist, and barber all in one. And the pole is actually referring to bloodletting. The red is the blood, the blue is your veins, the white is the bandages they used to wrap up, and the silver basins on top and bottom is the basin that they would let the blood into.
Hmm.
And so even if you track the history of barbering, the way that it's shifted from 1800s being your doctor to the early 1900s defining doctors from barbers, and then even going further now, barbers and hairstylists being separated, and now it's coming back to a collide again where your barber can do coloring and stuff as well.
Is it?
Interesting.
Are you
But
going
it
to
makes
install a
sense.
pole in your shop?
I do plan to have a pole in my shop eventually, yeah.
Awesome. It's iconic. You got to have it, right?
It is. I love the history. I have so many different barber tools that my family's collected from different pawn shops and stuff throughout the years that they have gifted me. And just knowing, I think that's the stuff I out about the most is the history and science of how it's come to be.
So why did you choose barber shop rather than a regular salon or beautician shop? What's the difference and why did you go the barber route?
I actually, when I first graduated hair school, started applying to full end high end salons, what you would call full service women's salon. And I got a job at a full service Aveda salon, and I worked there for 6 months, and I was actually let go for the reason they gave me was saying that I was not the right fit. I even emailed them later, and I never got a reply. And so on a whim, I actually just applied to a bunch of random places in my area because I just signed a new lease at a place. I needed a job, and I ended up getting a job at Goat. And that's kind of where my entry to full mince cutting started. And then I started going to educational classes and doing my own research, and that's where I fell in love.
Do you ever see yourself going back to a salon like that?
Oh, hell no. I like having a man in my chair for 40 minutes versus a woman in my chair for 6 hours.
Fair.
Good point. And I've heard my niece works at a salon, and I've heard some horror stories already in her short career of very demanding women.
Referring to like the chemicals and stuff that we have to learn to use, anything can affect chemicals, even like prenatal pills. If a woman starts taking prenatal pills and put hair color on, it can turn a different color than the last time I did the hair color.
That's interesting.
Things you don't think of.
Mhm.
Hence all the hours, right?
Anything you put in your body comes out in your hair, skin, and nails.
Makes sense. So when I came in, obviously I had the long hair and you chopped it off, but I told you that I'm your canvas, do whatever you want. So can you tell me what the haircut style you chose for me? And people are loving it, so it's been well received, but I have no idea to tell them what hairstyle it is. Is there a style for it, or
I have definitely moved away from style names of haircuts because social media has taken a huge grasp on naming things that someone will say, "Oh, I want a mullet," and they show me like a modern today's mullet, which
Mhm.
is normal Yarrow Hawk, what I gave you. But a 7-year-old kid's gonna say, "I want a mullet," and not know what an '80s mullet is.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that makes more sense because my niece keeps telling me I got a mullet, and I'm like, no, this isn't a mullet. Like, because I'm thinking what you're thinking, an 80s mullet is what I think, and I'm like, I would call this more of a, what did you say the name was? You just said
Yarrow Hawk.
Euro
Euro
hawk,
hawk.
that's
Yeah, I
right.
say it's more like a faux hawk or something like that. I'm like along those lines, a hybrid, but I'm like, oh, if this is a mullet, then I do not know I do not know what a mullet is anymore. But yeah, that makes more sense.
Made a comeback, but in a modern way, right?
Yeah.
Like when someone's like, "Oh, I want a shag," and I will clarify, do you want like a '70s beach shag, or are we talking about today's shag where they flip it up like a bird's nest? Like,
Okay. Really? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's helpful. Well, it's nice too with the technology nowadays is that, well, when I was a kid, you went to the haircut place and they'd have books, right? And you flip to the book and you go, okay, this is what I
That's
want.
right.
Um, but now a lot of those books are from like the 80s and 90s. But maybe they're making a comeback, so maybe they work. But
all
um,
have were gifted from '80s to time.
so yeah, the ones that I've seen, and I don't go very often unless I take my kids. But yeah, I think now you can just like pull up a picture off the internet and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Don't know what it's called, but here you go. But have you noticed do you know any trends that guy haircuts are getting nowadays, or what are the cool kids getting?
I think it's like a 40-year turnaround. If I had to be honest, that's kind of what we're seeing. Every 40 years, styles start to come. So in the late '90s to early 2000s, we had sharp face framing. You think Jennifer Lawrence's perfect straight hair with that little U shape in front of her face,
Right.
right? And that's starting to come back. But instead of having it being straight and cut super flat, you're seeing women put in a lot more texture and a little bit more like. Then about 40 years or 20 years, 40 years. I'm so sorry, not 40.
It kind of makes
Um,
sense.
so every 20 years or so, we get the turnaround. In the '80s, we had the long mullets, shorter hair on top. And now we're seeing it coming back again where they're getting the Euro Hawk kind of shorter mullet in the background, and it's become more modernized. Same with the Jennifer Lawrence haircut, the face framing that comes in the front. You're seeing that come out a lot more now, except a little bit more texture. And I think they're calling it like a butterfly cut on TikTok.
Huh.
I don't have to, so I don't know.
Well, 20 years ago, I frosted my tips. When is that going to come back? Or has it already made a comeback?
It's for M&M's bleached, completely shaved and bleached cap. That's becoming very popular right now. So I think the bleached tips are coming just right around the corner when
Well, he
those
just
start
came
to
out with
grow.
a new album, so that's probably why.
I don't doubt that.
But I, like we said, when I cut my hair, I have natural frost tips with all my gray and white hairs coming in, so I don't know if I need it anymore.
Oh, people will pay hundreds of dollars to have silver hair. So I would not color your gray hair.
Yeah, isn't that funny? I've noticed ladies lately too that they just let they're going gray. They just let it go because that's
Mhm.
the new cool thing. So
I had a bank
I
manager
think
that would purposely dye his hair darker or like the silver gray to look older. So
really
older and
I have a,
sophisticated.
silver fox.
yeah, I have a gentleman and we bleached part of his beard to make it all white.
Huh. I should try that. Give me a little accent or what do you call it?
Accent.
Little silver.
A little definition or
Has there ever been a time when you've cut someone's hair? Like maybe you've learned this from experience, but you said, okay, do you want the modern mullet or the 80s mullet? Have you ever had a time when someone said they wanted something and you thought it was something, but then ended up being something else?
And pictures do go a long way. And every time I use pictures in a consultation, the haircut always turns out. The only times I've had a bad, quote, bad haircut um, has been when there's no pictures to clarify. And I did have a 17-year-old boy come in once, told me he wanted a shag. And I asked him, are we talking the 70s shag? And he goes, yeah, I want it just above my shoulders. And ended up chopping almost 6 inches in the back. He had failed to mention, um, or maybe I had failed to clarify that he had still wanted to grow out his shag past his shoulders. He just wanted it evened out.
Mm.
yeah, that's a big difference. Evening out your hair to just to trim. Yeah, I remember my niece when she was going through school, I went in and I think I was growing my hair out at that time. And I told her I just like it'd be nice to get the bangs out of my eyes. And then her instructor comes over. So it wasn't her, her instructor comes over. And then before even she just cuts it and goes, "Is that good?" I'm like, normally you like say you grab it and say, if I cut here, is this good?
Yep.
But she just cut. I'm like, well, do I have a choice now? Like it did not look good. But I'm like, I don't have a choice anymore. But it was, yeah, it was not, I mean, it wasn't my niece's fault at all. It was her instructor, in my opinion. But I walked out of there with a haircut that did not look very good. But it wasn't as bad as my Zach Morris haircut that I got no, the first time I donated my hair.
Yeah.
So I think I told you guys that story, but I'll tell it for the listeners. But I did go to sports clips and nobody would pay attention to me. And I was kind of in a hurry ish. So my wife wanted me to get my hair cut that day for family pictures. And so I just left sports clips and I was going to drive like great clips or something. But on the way, I saw a house over on 90th and Redwood that said men's haircuts for a decent price. I'm like, oh, they specialize in men's haircuts. They should be able to handle mine. And I went in there and the lady said she's been cutting hair for 30 years. I said, well, go ahead and cut it so I can donate it. And then whatever, kind of same thing I did with you, whatever you think is going to work after that, that works. She's like, sure. And then by the time I was done, I looked like I was auditioning to play Zach Morris on Saved by the Bell with like the kind of feathered bowl cut thing. So it was interesting because I saw a couple of people that day. They'd be like, Nate, you cut your hair. Oh, you cut your hair. You know what I mean? Another was like, oh, so good. It's like, oh, like, and this is the choice you went with.
Not like the
Um,
reaction you're getting now, right?
yeah. And the crazy thing is the lady who took our family picture was more for our kids to get the pictures, but she lost all the pictures that I was in, which sucks. So I don't have any evidence, and I didn't take a picture before. So I have no proof of what it looked like except for the people that saw it. But then 2 days, maybe even a day later, after
Hold
the
on, Nate.
pictures,
I
I
think
went
we
over
know
to,
why she lost those pictures.
yes, yes, 100%. Um, anyways, a day later, I went to Fantastic Sam's and I sit down and the lady's like, looks at me and she goes, how long has it been since you had a haircut? And I'm like, 1 or 2 days, whatever it was. And she kind of looks at me like, hey, you're a weirdo and you're back 2 days later. You're going to touch up this crappy haircut. And I said, I did not choose this. And I pointed at me. She goes, okay, good. Like she had this like relief. Like, and then I'm like, how do we fix this? We spent like seriously 30 minutes talking about the pictures, right? We went through the books. We had like pictures on the wall and we're like, okay, how are we going to make this look? And she did it. She figured it out. But so I had the Zach Morris haircut for like 1 or 2 days, and then that lady at Fantastic Sam's fixed it for me. So that was an expensive week of haircuts. I should have had the membership because I could have just gone back in and said,
'Cause
and that's probably a good thing about a membership, right? If you cut it wrong, what I don't like, I can go back a week later, like, oh, I want to change things up, and we can, without hurting your feelings, and you can change it.
I
But
tell people all the time, I would rather you tell me I screwed up in person than tell me I screwed up on Google.
Mm.
yes, yes. What do they say? Did they teach you this in haircut school, or is it just something I've heard before? Like, you never say whoops when you're cutting hair. You say something like, there we go. Because you say whoops, they're like, what just happened? Anyways,
I've heard something like that. I don't remember exactly where I heard it because it was not a thing in hair school. At least at my hair school, we had the excuse of grabbing the red comb. If you mess up the hair, you'd be like, "Oh, give me one moment. I'm gonna go grab my red comb." You go to the back room and you cry, figure out how you're gonna fix it, and then
That's smart.
figure out a game plan. Oh, yeah. Good times with haircuts. And that's the cool thing I think about having a barber, somebody like you that you go to, is that once you find somebody who does your hair well, then you're not taking it's kind of it's Russian roulette, right? If you go to Great Clips or Super Cuts, like you may get a good haircut and you may just have wasted $20 shortening your hair or whatever it may be.
and a lot of those places walk-in based, so you could be sitting for 20 minutes or 2 hours.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I learned from when I was younger and had to start paying for my own haircuts to I would go to a few different Great Clips, then find the one person who was good at, or girl, I should usually a girl. And then you just go in and like what you're saying, I'll wait. I want her. I'll wait if it's 10 minutes or 2 hours. I'm waiting for her to cut my hair because I know at the end of the day she'll do it right. So um yeah. And Brandon, you ever gone over to the barber school for a haircut or gone over to a school for a haircut? Like
Yeah,
ever done that before?
what's the one like it's in Sandy, I think. Or maybe no, it's in West Jordan. What's that one off
I think it's gone. What was that place? London? It's like over on 90th and Redwood. Is it Julie or Paul Mitchell? Was it a Paul Mitchell place? No.
it might have been.
There's a beautician school over there on 90th and Redwood Road.
It wasn't on
I don't think it's there
Redwood.
anymore.
I
It's right. Well, it's over by that Shopco, right? That's gone.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Julie Andrews, is that a name of a school?
There's
The,
Taylor and
the Julie Andrews
Taylor.
School.
Taylor. Like Julie, like that's a lady. I'm like,
They
that's
do a
an
lot more
actress, right?
singing than hair cutting, so
I'm
it didn't
like,
work out very well.
But it got us to the right place, Brandon. So Taylor. Yeah, it was Taylor. Yeah, my wife's friend she worked for her at the bank with her at the bank like 20 years ago when we were newly weds, and she had her license in another state, and I think she let it lapse, so she had to go back and take so many hours to be able to get it for Utah. So she's really was cutting hair for like you for like 5, 6 years, let it lapse for a couple years. So she knew what she was doing. So she's on the floor a lot just cutting hair to get her hours in. So I go in there all the time because it was like cheap. It was like $5 and then pay her a tip, right? And then I knew she knew what she was doing. And it was a lot faster because when you go to a barber school or a beautician school, you plan on like what would you say, an hour or so for your haircut for a guy? Because you have to wait for this. It depends on how far along the person is, right, in their schooling, but it can take a minute. Um, it's
we
cheap.
off by the instructors before they can be checked out.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes forever. There's lots.
Yeah. Yeah, once I wanted to try the straight shave, the
Mhm.
razor shave. So I did go to the barber school over in Midvale because it was only like $5 to try that a long time ago. And even that took a minute to get done, right? So because you had to have somebody looking over their shoulder every couple of minutes, make sure they're doing it right.
Yeah.
That's
But
the
it's
time you
fun.
definitely wouldn't want to hear oops.
Oops.
No,
It's like the scene
no.
in
Whoopsie
Dumb and
daisies.
Dumber.
Whoopsie daisies. That's when you hear that. There you go. There you go.
There you go.
Just paint me a
It's a
picture
red
here.
comb now.
Didn't start out red.
Didn't start out red.
It's like, I'm gonna go get my blue comb. Good times. Well, is there anything else that we should know about your place, London, or you're dying to?
How people can find you if they want to come check you out.
Okay. You can go to my Instagram at styled_by_London. And there's a link in my bio to go straight to my booking. Or if you have the Vagaro app already, Vagaro is really cool, actually. If anyone is a service provider, they can use Vagaro. And Vagaro has a platform that connects with anyone else in the area that also. So you can literally go on the Vagaro app, search massage therapist, and find a massage therapist in your area from Vagaro.
Hmm.
Vagaro. I also do accept phone calls and text message appointments on my phone number. And that's about it right now. I am planning to get a website built
Did we say where the studio was?
in Riverton.
Riverton, which is near the, what are they calling that set? I mean, I always say Harmon's. Is that kind of the landmark people say?
Stop Mountain View Village. And Mountain View Village does have their own Instagram as well and does their social media phenomenally, actually.
Yeah, when I think, it's weird, when I think Riverton, I always think east of Bangor. So it's always weird to me to think west of Bangor. So this one is west of Bangor, pretty close to the corridor, right? And it's right off the corridor, the shopping center, but you're a little bit further east from Harmon's. So not all the way quite to closer to the movie theater, right? You are than the Harmon's.
Yeah, I'm like smack in the middle. If you know where the R&R barbecue is, that's where I tell people. That's the
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, that's where the good food is over there. I love Owner. Well, at least I did before they sold out, but still good.
Yeah.
Still good. Good deal.
Okay, well we'll link all your stuff in our social media posts. Check out London and the great barbering she does. I can't speak from my experience. I have very little hair. Nate was the one with the hair that got the haircut and can vouch for the excellent service. So thanks again for doing this and um for helping Nate donate the hair. I guess that was the main purpose of it. Nate definitely needed a haircut, but to be able to just make that sacrifice, grow your
Well, I
hair
don't
as long
think,
as you needed to, and
yeah, yeah, I think I'm done with the hair donations. I just can't, unless if I get lazy again and don't go in and see a barber in the next few months, maybe I'll just keep growing it out again. But I don't think we mentioned, but you came to be London because one of our listeners heard our plea to
Jeff from American Fork Podcast, give them a shout out.
reached out to us and gave us your information, said you would more than likely be willing to help since, um, yeah, we wanted to have somebody who referred us to somebody rather than go, like I said, test our luck with somebody else.
Always here for the recommendations.
Well, thanks again to London for one, cutting off Nate's long and overdue hair, and two, for coming on and telling us about what she does. It's always, I think we always mix things up here, right? We have a mix of, sometimes we talk to local business owners, sometimes we just rant about a place we like. We're pretty balanced, but it is always nice to have someone come on and talk to them about
But yeah.
what they've got going on.
Well, our favorite, at least my favorite is when we do something like this where somebody either lets us come try out their establishment or takes us on a tour or wherever it may be. It's one of my favorites to have like an insider knowledge of the location we're talking about. So,
Oh yeah. If you want us to be an insider for your location or whatever it may be, let us know. We're always up for
or
it.
if you can sneak us into something really cool, we're up for that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything, even if it's, not technically illegal, we'll do it.
Yeah,
As long as
we'll
it's not
do it.
trespassing. We
Well,
almost
before
trespassed.
we were
We almost trespassed once. You
really
may have crossed the line and trespassed.
me
Did you go into raging waters?
negative. I went to the parking lot.
We were close. We were close. We could have. This was the height of the pandemic when everybody was breaking into raging waters. We could have done it, but we didn't. We're
I
good
think
boys.
we may have during that time. Did we? You were with me, weren't you?
Yeah. I
Did
just
we
couldn't
not like
remember if
walk
you
up to the
crossed
gate?
the fence or not.
I might have. I might have put my hand through the fence.
Okay. We didn't
I
touch
still have it.
anything. We didn't leave any
They didn't
needles
cut it off.
behind.
They didn't cut it off. So that's
Didn't
good.
cut it off. But anyway, if you need a haircut, you know,
We know
check out.
somebody now.
We know someone. We have someone. You have a friend in the haircut. Yeah, we know someone if you want to get your haircut, or if you really love getting your haircut, you can get one of those memberships. Thanks for listening to This Is a Place podcast.
And this was a place we just talked about.